about Axum. Okay, and yeah, Happy Father's Day. Yeah, yeah. Yes, the temples were seen as mirrors of heaven, and a lot of them were aligned with the stars. Okay, um, they was in line with constellations or major phenomena. So yeah, Mason says YouTube. King Hurt, he says both. That's what's up. Yeah, that's I just want to know. I think I'm more of a on the YouTube side. Okay, I just now if I want to watch a movie, yeah, yeah. But we're not dealing with the movie question today. We're not doing it. It's just Netflix or YouTube. Okay, King Hercules say both. Let's continue. Let's get to it. All right. Now, so sacred geometry, cosmic architecture, right? Now, the question is what knowledge is encoded in the sacred geometry of East African temples, tombs, and monuments? How does sacred geometry show up in our culture today? All right, now, the Axum obelisks, okay? let me see, it's in the book. That's the reason why I got this. For those who have it, okay, who are in the book, because it is, let me find the page. I'll find that in a second. But in Amharic, it is called Ye Axum Howlet. Okay, for my family in Ethiopia, y'all help me out with that one. It's Ye Axum Howlet or Howlet. All right, that's what it's called. It's not just grand monuments to build cosmic pillars on. It wasn't that kind of space, but it wasn't just something to look at. It was I'm sorry, it was cosmic pillars, axis mundi connecting earth to heavens. The precise carvings encoded cosmological principles. Windows, if you look closer, windows symbolizing portals. Okay, symbolizing portals with numerology linked to the solar calendar. Now, in the book, okay, I think page 28, Axum is famous for its obelisks or monolithic steels cut out of hard granite. The majority are rudely fashioned stones, scarcely more than height, but others are immense. Now, the largest one, according to the book, the largest one has fallen. Okay, and the second one, guess what? It's three of them, right? Three large ones. The second one, guess where it's at? It's in Rome. Okay, in 1937, it was taken by Italy and sent to Rome, and of course, the third one is still there. There are some indications on several obelisks that some metal device, possibly uh, they may imagine gilt, was once attached to the tops of them. So just like the pyramids that had gold or some kind of shining stone at the top, the obelisk in Ethiopia had a metal piece attached to the very top also. Hmm. Okay, it was probably to symbolize the religion of the ancient Axumite people. In pre-Christian time, this symbol would probably have been a representation of the sun and the moon, as carved, for example, on a much smaller obelisk. Okay, one of the most interesting inscriptions. They have stone inscriptions, right? And it kind of calls them to remember the Rosetta Stone. Okay, so they made these, okay, and it was sacred to them. Okay, the design of Axum's steel or the stone pillars reflect an advanced understanding of sacred geometry, ratios, and proportions, mirroring the structure of the cosmos. These stones marked equinoxes and solstice. The summer solstice is upon us; it's about to get hot. Okay? All right, and tying architecture to celestial movements. Okay, this is not just they just didn't place the stones there so it can look nice. It represented something. And as you notice, if you can go a little further, it looks like a little door right there, and it has different levels. I wonder what these levels represent. Hmm. I'm learning too. I'm looking at this. There's a door right here. Okay, remember we talked about the false door in Kemet in those tombs. It wasn't to fool the tomb robbers. It was for the ancestors to go into that other realm, into the duat. I wonder if this door is for that. Y'all let me know. You guys are very intelligent, and we all learn it together. Let's share this information. Let me see what. All right, Sister Haynes, what's going on? Hey there, community, what's going on? Blue Aries say both, both Netflix or YouTube. Mama Louise, what's going on? All right, so yeah, sacred geometry. Let's get it. Here it is. The rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. Man, here we go. Here we go. It's created as the New Jerusalem, but also a microcosm of the cosmos. Yep. Here we are. Their orientations align with specific solar events, reinforcing spiritual connection. It was made out of volcanic rock. Okay, that is straight up sacred. Okay, and it's a living element transformed by human hands into a divine space. Shout out to the Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo Church. Shout out to them. But yeah, this was built, I think, around in the 11th century. And as you notice, just like the obelisks, there's levels. There are levels here. Okay, yeah. Now, in Lalibela's 11, he has 11 monolithic churches carved out of living rock. Okay, they didn't just with a living rock. What does that mean is they didn't take the stones from the quarries and move it somewhere. They just found a location and built that. Yeah. Okay. And it's very similar to like the Valley of the Kings in Kemet, where they just dug through that, or Abu Simbel, right? They carved from the living rock, were laid out in a pattern that reflects both the Coptic liturgical calendar and celestial cross axes. Bet Madame Elim, okay, the house of the Savior of the world, is often overlooked as a kind of African art structure. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, okay, they're very, when I say old school, very old school. And so a lot of their designs, a lot of things that they do in and around their buildings, their temples, are very similar to what happened in the Old Testament. Okay. This is not a theology class, but check them out. Okay. They had religion before the white man decided to have it. You're very welcome. Okay. So speaking of the art, we got some information loading on that. Okay. We got something for you. Now, Bet Madame Alim. Okay. Guess what? Guess who decided to come up and see, Brother Ferguson, I told you we was gonna do this, and Mo was gonna be mad. So Knights Templar was out there in Ethiopia. They sure were. Let me get this book. Let me see which. We're gonna start with this book, okay? All right. We're gonna start with this page 76. Now, in this section, page 76 is links with European Christendom. Many European Christians in the period of the Crusades, which began in the early 12th century, were on the other hand keen on military cooperation with Ethiopia, then virtually the only Christian power outside of Europe. Ethiopia was a nation, a powerful nation, okay? And so Ethiopian and European Christians over the centuries became increasingly cautious of each other's existence. Contacts between European and Ethiopian Christians over the ensuing centuries developed slowly. Okay, now some monks of Portuguese and Spain start showing up. The strategic importance of Ethiopia, according to Richard, so slowly these monks were showing up, asking questions, and this is 13th century. They was asking, they needed Ethiopia's help. Ethiopia was like, nah, bro, y'all wanted to fight the Islamic people over Jerusalem. Y'all know better. Now, throughout the period, the Ethiopians and their rulers also did remain in close contact with Jerusalem, and that's how they knew about it. Okay, so when Emperor Amada Sinyan, he was known to send donations back and forth to the Ethiopian community, and Ethiopia sent donations to Jerusalem, and that was it. They said, look, We're gonna deal with this. We don't want to deal with all that. Okay, but over time, diplomacy came into play, right? So the earliest European communication to an Ethiopian ruler was dispatched by King Henry IV of England to the king of Abyssinia named Prester John. There was a correspondence between the king of Abyssinia and a dude named Prester John, right? I'm sorry, King Henry and Prester John in the 1400s. Okay, its author was prompted to write because prior to his coronation, he himself had been in the Holy Land, where he was informed that the Ethiopian monarch, Emperor Dawit, wished to capture the Holy Sepulchre from the Saracens. So Ethiopia realized that none of y'all, the people of Islam, y'all don't deserve it. People of Europe, y'all don't deserve it either. We finna intervene. Okay? We're gonna stop all that. And a year later, there was an embassy that was dispatched, but to kind of cool them off, it was in 1402. They returned. His people returned back to Ethiopia with relics, including it was called a piece of the true cross. Now, not only these boys have the ark, they also have a relic or the piece of the true cross. I don't know how large it is. I don't know how small it is, but yeah. So throughout, from the 1100s all the way up until like the 1400s, Europe, as well as Islamic people, were in direct contact with the people of Ethiopia, right? And even some of the Ethiopians did go north, making their way to Rome, and it was also called Moors. So Moors weren't. So the West African people weren't the only group of people that was called Moors. Okay, but I got something else. Let me see. I got something else now. In this book, the sign and the seal by Graham Hancock. Yeah, we're gonna get into that on today. Okay, I got time. This summer school. All right. Yeah, Knights Templar in Ethiopia. You sure right. They was in there, and not only they was in there, they was looking for something. And you know how these folk are. They come in nice and peaceful, but you up there being nosy. Yeah. All right. The ark, what ark? The ark, okay, Walter. The Ark of the Covenant, according to Old Testament tradition, the Exodus and all those things. Yeah. It was Indiana Jones, Fortune and Glory, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, that one. So let's continue. All right, so let me see what page. The Sign of the Seal. There is a couple of chapters in the Sign of the Seal by Graham Hancock. That kind of touches on the interaction between Europe and Ethiopia, right? Chapter 7 is good. Let me see. Hold on, chapter 5, White Knights in a Dark Continent. Yeah. That's when in this chapter he talks about how the earlier Templars they interacted with King Lalibela, right? And it was more of a diplomatic mission. Okay, that's what it was seemed like. That's what it seemed like. Okay, but over time, as they continue into chapter 7, that's when people start getting suspicious as to why all of these Europeans are showing up over here, right? And so now we know that Lalibela in chapter 5 he left, but he was left under the guard and protection of the Templars, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what happened is, I'm trying to get to that exact page. Okay, here you go. The 13th century. So dealing with the reason why they have suspicion, the reason why they have some concern about it, okay, is because that they knew the ark was being moved from place to place in and around Ethiopia. Okay, and so they describe the transportation of the ark on certain ceremonial occasions. Okay, they seen these people carrying it. Not only the Ethiopians were carrying it, but according to Graham Hancock, some of the Knights were carrying it too. They said white and red in complexion with red hair. Yeah. And so if the Northern Europeans were seen by Abu Salah, indeed the Templars were there. Okay. And so they contented themselves with carrying this relic from time to time. It was cool. They figure, okay, now we're able to carry, we know where it is. So what they was trying to do, okay, I'm trying to get to what they was trying to do, they were just chilling in the cut until such time they can get it. We just gonna hang out here. Okay, we know the war's going on out here, but we got another mission. We got another situation. We see the Ark of the Covenant out here. We're gonna hang back. We're gonna wait and see. Now, get this: Vasco da Gama, the explorer Vasco da Gama wasn't just an explorer. He was actually like a grand master of some kind. Okay, the Knight of the Order of Christ. So these people, these explorers, had connections, and so they was trying to maneuver their way in and around Ethiopia. Okay, and they were looking for Prester John again. And so King John of Portugal, okay, who was also the Grand Master of the Order, he sent spies. They went through Alexandria, okay, and they went straight south to into Ethiopia. Okay, so what happened in the 1500s? Fast forward to 1500s. The Muslims were also attacking Ethiopia. So what they did was they say once. What happened is in 1535 the Muslims attacked Axum and razed the ground in the ancient most holy church of St. Mary Zion. So they were also fighting the Ethiopians, right? So what the Ethiopians did was before the attack came, the Ethiopians moved the ark. They put it in another place. Okay, they just moved it. The Ethiopians' Royal Chronicle 1541 speaks of the confident manner in which they marched up to the highlands from the coast, praising them. Okay, and so the British historian Edward Gibbon was later to summarize their achievements in just 9 words. Ethiopia was saved by 450 men. Okay, but what happened is once they got done with the Muslims, they kicked the Europeans out. Okay, they threw all the settlers out. It says, despite the debt of gratitude of this country owed to the Portuguese, okay, he made it his business. The king of Ethiopia made it his business to throw out all the settlers. Yep. So the people, okay, of Ethiopia fought the Muslims, but after years of conversation with the Europeans, they realized that okay, you're not here to help us. You're not here to even to deal with us on a spiritual level or whatever. You're trying to take from us. So y'all need to get out. So yes, the Knights Templar were, as well as some other military orders at that time, were in Ethiopia. They were sniffing around looking for the ancient relic, and Ethiopia wasn't having it. They weren't. All right, let's go. So yeah, they was looking for the Ark of the Covenant, and it was none of their business. Now, to my understanding, it is still in Ethiopia, still heavily guarded, and it is what it is, right? Now, megalithic sites throughout Ethiopia. Cairns and stone circles date back thousands of years, some aligned with lunar cycles and solstice points. These sites likely served as early observatories and ritual centers, anchoring communities to cosmic time. Okay. Now, the Nile, flowing from as a great line from the cosmic womb, the Nile itself is an earthly expression of the divine flow of life force. Its annual floods or mirror cosmic rhythms of life, death, and rebirth, nourishing the land, and it's almost spirit-like, right? So, but now, I'm sorry for the lettering there, sacred geometry and cosmic architecture. And you notice when the pyramids and the Heru and Maket, then the pyramids was made, it was in line with various constellations. The pyramids, as some of us understand, was in line with Sa'u, or the Orion's belt, and Haru Emaket was in line with the constellation Leo. Shout out to the fam who's born in August, right? But the Nile was also symbolic of the earthly representation of the Milky Way. Okay, so yeah. So that's the sacred geometry that they knew and understand, right? Yeah, I do. I do understand, Volta. Yeah, that's the thing, and that's tragic because they did. The modern Christian Ethiopia did conquer the ancient Ethiopian, and so much was lost because there was fires, of course, there was destruction, and they lost sacred texts and tablets and everything. Yeah, information was lost, right? Yeah, yeah. Brother Ferguson, he said, Brother Mo will be upset with me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I, I'll hear it. I'm gonna hear it the next few weeks. But you know, he got to get on vacation. I got to do the show. Tomato, tomato. Man, but guess what though? Since we own that, okay, since we're on sacred geometry, we're going to deal with ancient astronomers of Nubia. We're going to deal with that. We're going to deal with Naphtali and so many things. I'm so excited about this, y'all. And of course, so um, if you enjoy that, okay, in the coming months, we're going to discuss connections with Heteru, Taurus, and Naphtali, and we're going to deal with the connection between Epidemax, Sekhmet, and the Sphinx. There is a connection. Did a little homework behind that. It's all connected. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna get into that. All right. So yeah, so what knowledge is encoded, okay, with the sacred geometry of East Africa, tombs and monuments? How does sacred geometry show up in our culture today? Y'all let me know. Y'all tell me, okay? Like and comment below. How does that sacred geometry show up in our culture? I think, in my opinion, it shows up in our music. Okay, it shows up in our because that deal with time, that deal with space. Okay, it shows up in our music, in our dancing. Okay, as a matter of fact, how we even walk, that's a sacred geometry, y'all. You know, yeah. Y'all let me know. Like and comment below. Now, so far, a little bit of the introduction, the hidden pantheon of East Africa, sacred geometry, Axum. We got to deal with the archetypes and how East African sacred science shape global systems. And I'm still checking roll. And I think we have a bonus. It depends on if we got time. We may have a bonus round. It really depends. Let's go. Yeah, bonus transmission. You got it. Bonus is loading. Depends on if y'all want to do it. I do have a little bonus piece of information. Okay. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Make me pull up and whip. Yep. Hey, I got to share the information, right? Let's go. Archetypes and the human soul's journey. Okay. Across East Africa, a trinity of animal symbols repeat itself, but these were not just totems and symbols or whatever, or those kind of things. They were living archetypes encoding initiatory knowledge and pathways of spiritual transformation, right? They represented something, okay? All right, so the serpent, we talked about the serpent before, but it keeps showing up, right? Found in Ethiopia as part of the serpent guardianship lore. In Kemet, it was the Wajet, and among the Oromo and the Kushite culture, as it was part of the wisdom cycle. Okay, why is it serpents? That's what I hear in the good book. Why is it serpents? The serpent represents both the Kundalini. If you're into that kind of thing, the Kundalini. I know nothing about that. I'm just a history teacher. Kundalini. Somebody else may specialize in that, but it deals with Kundalini energy and ancestral wisdom, the core potential of divine intelligence at the base of existence. In some Ethiopian myths, it is the serpent who guards the tree, or the tree of sacred water, the sacred water source, right? The lion. So we have the serpent, we have the lion, right? Ethiopia is the land of the lion, from the line of Judah, tribe of David, right? To the guardian of the Sphinx, the Haru Maket in Nubia and Kemet. The lion represents kingship, solar power, and protection. Okay, and I understand that there was some kings that had lions as pets. in Ethiopia? Y'all let me know. Did they have did they have lions as pets in Ethiopia like that? I wouldn't have them in my house. I'm gonna tell you. In the temple system, lions guard thresholds and thrones, especially solar seats. So yes, it wasn't just metaphysical, it was actual, right? They were found flanking gates in Axum and other Nile Valley structures, right? All right, so the falcon, okay, is seen in Heru and the Kushite battle banners. The falcon is the symbol of the risen soul. Okay, the ascended spirit with vision, the speed, divine favor. The Ethiopian royal iconography also hints at falcon imagery, representing the spirit that soars above illusion and sees from above. That's they. Whenever they had the falcon behind, you've seen some images of, say, a gray falcon behind Ramses or somebody like that. That meant that God was behind this person. Okay, so pay attention to him. Or the great falcon, I was told that he flies very high. Okay, and he can see. He can be way up there, but he can still see you as if you're up close. Okay, that was the falcon. Now, the Narmer pilot. Okay, now King Narmer came from the south. He was Nubian. He was there to unify the nation of Kemet, right? And you notice the falcon was there, so the culture of Heru and the knowledge of Heru was already in place by the time he unified Egypt. And of course, we have the bull Heteru there, okay, and so you see that, okay. So the Kemetic culture was an African thing, so they already had that information. So the falcon was there, okay, and some other symbols was there. Now, and of course, the crystal incense, which was found in Nubia, which was found in Sudan, this has Egyptian imagery, but it predates the Old Kingdom. And we have the falcon right there in the middle. We have the falcon right there. We have the king with with his crown, okay, crown of Upper Egypt. Okay, we have some people. We have the boats right there, and we have like a is that a I forgot one of them was a caribou. Yeah, so, because we have to understand, about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, that was grassland. It wasn't desert. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, we have the falcon there. We have these people being taken away. So they did sail up and down the Nile Valley. Okay, we have the falcon here. We have the antelope. Sorry, I said caribou. We have a cat here, which may represent Sekhmet or Basset, depends. We have some people kneeling in prison, and we have the palace facade there. All these things you will see later on. Whenever you see a king or Insubiti, or king of Egypt, he would have the falcon and the palace facade. And the question, I think the fam got a question there. Didn't the royals of Kemet come from Nubia? You are absolutely correct. Okay, the royals came from the south. If they did not come from the south themselves, they married somebody from Nubia, Ethiopia. It's very rare that they intermarried like that. It was probably once or twice, and we found out that Sebek Neferu had there was a stepbrother and that kind of thing. So, and it was very rare that they intermarried like that, right? That's a European thing, and it's weird. So, but yes, matter of fact, Ramses. I would like to believe. I think Dr. Ben or Dr. John Henry Clark. I think they would. I heard them say that Nefertari was Nubian. So in order for a king to be legit, in order for him to be legit, the lineage had to come from the south, not from Mesopotamia, not from the Mediterranean. Right? Let's go. Historical and cultural interconnections. Okay. Now, oh, I forgot really quick. The serpent. Don't forget, there's 3 or 4 major deities, right? That kind of circulated in and around the Nile Valley. Of course, it was the serpent, which represents the earth. Matter of fact, it represents the underworld. The lion, the heart and soul of mastery. The falcon, heavenly ascension and return. Each archetype is a station on the soul's return path. These were not abstract ideas. They were embedded into temple gates, rituals, headdresses, sacred chants, and initiation rituals from Nubia on down. So, historical and cultural interconnections, right? As we continue to trace the sacred arc from Kemet through Kush to Ethiopia, we must now look at the cultural crossroads, the intersections where trade, memory, and mysticism met. Okay, this is where the ancient world didn't collapse. Okay, it evolved, it changed. Okay, African culture was remembered. It evolved, it remixed. Okay, so let's get into it. Now we have the Demet Kingdom, crossroads of civilization, Demet DMT, long before Axum. I told you we're gonna get to ancient Ethiopia, right? Now, some people, before we get to that though, some people would like to say that, they would say, well, that Ethiopia is not the actual term for Ethiopia. I get it. I understand. But for instructional purposes only, that's the word we're using. Okay. We we can really get into the different tribal names of that place, but for instructional purposes, we use Ethiopia for instructional purposes. We interchange the word Nubia with Sudan, Kemet, and Egypt, and so on. Okay? All right, let's go. The Demet Kingdom, okay, crossroads of civilization. Long before Axum rose to prominence, we had the Demet DMT Kingdom. It flourished in the highlands of modern day Eritrea and northern Ethiopia. It was often overlooked. Okay, it was a crucible of African, Arabian, and even Mediterranean influences. Okay. The question, I hope that 7 says, I thought Tasseti was another name for Ethiopia. Tasseti, I haven't heard that one, but Tasseti was used as a term for Nubia. Okay. And so Tasseti was another name for Nubia. And also not only that, but they're the different, everybody in Sudan, they were not Nubian. They may have been um, from a different group. They were Kushite. I learned recently there was different groups in Sudan. That's the reason why when the king said he's the king of the north and south, he had to either diplomatically or by force subdue all of them. Yeah, and that's correct. Yeah, that is correct. Tasseti is meant the land of the bow. That is correct. Yeah. Shout out to the girl Roxanne. What's going on? Yeah, on the one. Dig it. Yeah, it is. That is an interesting name. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly, right, without saying other things, right? But yes, Tasseti is called the land of the bow. You are correct. Ta land Seti bow. It's located along the Red Sea trade routes. Demet absorbed spiritual and technological ideas from Sabian Arabia. That is the southern Yemen region. We talked about the Sabians before, and they're entering the chat. They're coming back with it. So it's pretty interesting to hear about the Sabian people again, right? This includes early script forms, stone temple techniques, and cosmological ideas, but the spiritual core remained African. Even though they got their ideas and writing from another group, the culture was still African, with nature reverences, ancestor veneration, of course, and early temple designs aligned with the sun, moon, and stars, and even the mountains. Okay, echoing older Nile Valley tradition. Remember, this culture goes back more than 10,000 years, right? They have ritual platforms, sacred spaces, and lunar calendars found in like the sites like Yeha, Yeha. Yeha indicates theocratic rulership with both political and spiritual alignment. So it wasn't just, this place was just a colony. It was a fusion of culture. Okay. And Volta says Ethiopia and Ethiopia not the same. I do agree with you. I do agree. Okay. Now, I just read that. Okay. So now, but we did talk about the ancient Sabians before. Check the video out. It is available. Check it out a little bit later. All right. Now, the Axum Empire. All right. it is a synthesis and empire synthesis and sacred symbols, right? Now, the kingdom of Axum rose as a spiritual and commercial powerhouse, one of the great empires of late antiquity, trading with Rome, okay, India, and even China. Okay, some say they invaded Nubia for Rome. I was reading that, and they didn't. There were some altercations between Ethiopia and Nubia, but it wasn't for Rome. Okay, I did read that. I haven't heard that they were doing it for somebody else. It was an occasion where a king wanted to expand his kingdom up north into Nubia, but he was doing it for himself. He wasn't doing it for Rome. But what's more important is that the Axum persevered, preserved, and transformed. The coins were not just economic tools, but they were sacred texts in metal. Okay, early coins feature solar discs, crescent moons, geometric crosses, reflecting an inherited cosmology from Kushite and Kemetic traditions. Later coins blend these with Christian symbols, marking sacred community, not a break between the old and the new spiritual system. Now, get this: Axum maintained a sacred script called Ge'ez. It's still used today in Ethiopian church liturgy. It's still used. This written tradition carries encoded metaphysical wisdom from antiquity. Okay, I do have a Ethiopian dictionary, but I can't read Ge'ez. But one day I learned it. I learned it. Okay, temples gave way to churches. Okay, but the cosmic architecture, east-facing sanctuaries and holy processions mirrored Nile Valley prototypes. Okay, even though time went forward, of course, time had to continue. You still saw and heard elements of the ancient order, the ancient ways. So Axum didn't erase the old gods; he just dressed them in new garments. Okay, the new essence was it remained. So now trade routes. Yep, they did. We discussed that also. We discussed some trade routes in this book. It was fun. All right, but yeah, they did. They did trade. Okay, and so in ancient, so to the ancient Egyptians, the land of the south, the source of curiosity was the land of the gods, the land of Punt. They traded. Okay, not just in the ancient Egyptian time, but in the modern era. Okay, so they did trade all along Eastern Africa, the Horn of Africa, all the way into Arabia. Okay, so in ancient Africa, trade was never just material, it was metaphysical. Trade routes doubled as ritual corridors where ideas and sacred objects, chants, and healing traditions flow like invisible rivers. Frankincense from Punt. I know the fam is mentioning Punt. I may have to add that also. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know Punt fell before Kemet. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Shout out to Walter. Yeah, very knowledgeable. Like, subscribe, share this knowledge. Yeah. Share it with somebody who may like it. Don't just give it to anybody because they may not pay attention. All right, let's go. But yeah, so they were spiritual pathways. Okay, frankincense from Punt, sacred resins from Nubia, and carved amulets from Kemet moved through these routes alongside the spiritual texts, divination systems, and ritual instruments. Priests, musicians, and initiates traveled with traders, transmitting chants, cosmograms, sacred geometry across the desert and the water. Monasteries in Ethiopia and Sudan became knowledge banks or houses of knowledge per Ankh, right? Houses of light, preserving astrological manuscripts, healing texts, and mystic lineages. The Nile was a river of commerce, but also a river of prophecy, memory, and coded ritual. So when Christianity finally arrived in Ethiopia in the 4th century in Common Era, it didn't erase the old ways. It layered them, it flipped it, it just changed it, and what emerged was not a colonized religion. Okay, it was not a colonized religion. It was a spiritual system, uniquely African. Sacred groves, mountain shrines, and water rituals continue under Christian names, just like over there when the family from West Africa was shipped over to the Western world. Okay, they did not. They just changed the cult. They just changed some of the orisha. They changed some of this aspect of this idea and made it modern. Okay, you have the candomblé. They have the family in Haiti and many other places. Okay, so they had the sacred groves in East Africa. Mountain shrines and water rituals continue under Christian names, yet honored ancestral forces. Okay, Marin Marin to Zion, and in Axum or Ethiopia holds, like I said, the church. I forgot the name. It's called the Church of Saint Mary, I think, in Ethiopia. Addis Ababa holds the Ark of the Covenant, but the priesthood that guards it still follow the ancient purity laws that echo Kushite temple tradition. The ritual arts like drumming, holy dance, incense burning, and liturgical chants remain deeply rooted to pre-Christian initiatory rites. So they play drums in the Ethiopian church, like African drums. Pretty cool. In Ethiopia, spirituality was never uprooted, only replanted with new symbols, right? And of course, we have the spiritual continuity in Ethiopia after Christianity. It was still the same. They were still doing these things. They were still a lot of the matter of fact in the Coptic Church calendar had some of those months are the Netaru. Okay, you know, so we got oral traditions, living libraries of the soul. The final and most powerful thread in this is the oral tradition, word of mouth, mouth to ear, right? In Ethiopia, as across Africa, songs, stories, and chants and proverbs were more than entertainment. They were encoded cosmic maps, right? So we have the Kini. Okay, I think I'm pronouncing it Kini. That's the Ethiopian poetic chant, carries astrological codes, spiritual warning, and prophetic rhythms that teach without a textbook. Okay, we teach and learn through song, right? That epic narratives, epic cosmos, okay, epic narratives like the Keba Nagast preserve dynastic memory, star knowledge, and sacred lineage, tracing back to Solomon and Sheba, but also to the Nile gods, the line ancestors, and cosmic worlds. Okay, the Keba Nagast, okay, that's one of them. Proverbs act as mnemonic keys, distilling thousands of years of spiritual science in a single poetic line. These were not just stories, they were soul technologies, oracles disguised as lullabies. Okay, now, so Ethiopia, okay, as I'm thinking about this, Ethiopia's sacred links are not just relics but living roots, right? These gods, the sacred geometry, these archetypes,